Okay, so this talk is MegaCam for graduate students, and the picture in the background is a color image made with 3 MegaCam images. This is exactly the field of view, and you can see the 40 chips in it. And I just thought it was a nice way to highlight what MegaCam images look like. So first, I'll talk a little bit about who I am. I just started at CFHT a few months ago, and I am their new MegaCam Instrument Support Scientist. My job is basically to make sure the MegaCam data gets properly processed for the PIs, and I help with different aspects of the queue, the technical review of proposals, and I also help with queues as a queue coordinator. And I do other things as well, but these are my primary duties. And previously, I was working for Atlas, which is another large field of view camera, primarily on the pipeline and the scheduling. And prior to that was on PanStars on the image processing pipeline and building the DR1 and DR2 databases. And also, again, a giant camera with a large field of view. And prior to that, as a grad student, I was working on ROTC, a small robotic telescope, but also a large field of view camera. And I also worked on the pipeline. So I have a lot of experience with pixels. And so I fit in nicely here at MegaCam. And science-wise, I've jumped around a lot. So I started off with gamma ray bursts and supernova. I've worked on things that move like asteroids and comets, and I've worked on things that change like variable stars. So basically, I've worked on a lot of different areas of science. Mostly, I just kind of follow where the cool camera is that I want to work on. So here is a picture of the dome for the Canada, France, Hawaii telescope. And just to show you guys how amazing it looks up at the summit. It's at the summit of Mauna Kea, and have some information. So Canada, France, Hawaii telescope, it has Canada, France, and Hawaii. So it has National Research Council of Canada, Centre National de la Recherche Scientifique of France, and University of Hawaii for Hawaii. If you're at one of these 3 places, you can probably propose telescope time and use our telescope. There are other exceptions as well. So even if you're not part of those institutes or research groups, you can probably find a way of using CFHT data through the archives or other ways. This telescope, it's a 3.6 meter optical telescope. It's up at the summit of Mauna Kea. It's at 4,200 meters, and it became operational in 1979. So here is a slide of what the MegaCam instrument looks like. On the left, the MegaCam CCDs, the 40 CCDs, and you can see it's about the size of a small pizza. I like to say PanStars is about the size of a large pizza. So I like my cameras when I can describe them by pizza. And on the right, I have a picture of MegaCam or MegaPrime installed on the telescope. So the black pyramid on top with the black cylinder, that's the MegaPrime instrument where MegaCam lives. And you can see below it, you can see the CFHT telescope. So here I have some information about MegaCam. So it became operational in 2003. And at the time, it was the largest camera. It has 40 CCDs, and it's 378 megapixels. And it covers a very large field of view. It covers a 1 degree by 1 degree field of view. And I have here just one exposure from NGC 6820, just an R filter, just to show you what a 1 degree by 1 degree field of view looks like. It's pretty amazing. And the resolution is 0.187 arc seconds per pixel. And how we operate is there's 5 instruments that are in use currently for Canada, France, Hawaii telescope. MegaCam gets used for 10 days around new moon. So they exchange the instruments and they put MegaCam and it just runs continuously for a block of time and then they take it off. I have here a little information about the filters. So up on the top is the typical Sloan-like filters, U, G, R, I, Z, and Y. Oh, no, sorry, no Y. It's just U, G, R, I, and Z. Lower left, we have the narrow band filters. So we have CAHK, oxygen 3 offset, H alpha, and H alpha offset. And we have one broadband filter, the GRI filter, which is mostly used for looking for asteroids and things like that. But all of these filters are available if you get to use MegaCam. And I will have here a visual of what I do for my job. So we have software called Elixir that takes the raw images and detrends them and gets them ready for science. And basically, you have on the left a raw exposure taken from the telescope, and you can see there's all sorts of different levels on each of the chips, and each chip has 2 amplifiers. And we process it very uniformly through Elixir for all of the exposures. We take care of the flats, the fringe, the mask, all that stuff, and process it and get it to the scientists pretty quickly after the exposures are taken. So the scientists don't have to worry about this aspect of it. They get a nice, clean set of images that they can do their science with. And I don't really want to talk about all the details inside Elixir. I mean, it tracks all the exposures and makes sure things are done in a consistent way. And here is a little bit about MegaCam 0 points. So I have for U, G, R, I, and Z, the calculated 0 points for different runs. Each point represents a run. So a run is like roughly 10 days around new moon. And you can see the 0 points are pretty consistent, except they slowly drop depending basically how long it's been since the mirror's been cleaned. So for example, the blue line here, you can see when the mirror cleaned, you gained almost half a magnitude or so, I think. Yeah. And again, we just cleaned it. So all the 0 points are back up high where they should be. Yeah, so you can see the 0 points range from like 24.5 to about 26.5. So this is a great instrument for taking really nice, deep images of large areas of sky. I'll talk a little bit about how we do our observing. So a lot of times people do classical observing where a PI proposes, they get some time, they get certain dates, they go fly out to the telescope and they try to observe on those dates. And if the weather's bad, they don't get any data. That's classical observing. We use queued service observing. So the PIs don't actually get to come over here, but they have a higher likelihood of getting good data. So what happens is each PI, they get allocated different amounts of time and they put in their targets. Where the RA index, the filter, how long they want to expose for, they put those targets into this database. And the Q observer or the Q coordinator, they make cues each night. So they make cues based on different sorts of weather conditions. So for a perfect night, they'll make a list of observations that the remote observer should do. And they also have them for good weather and marginal weather because the PIs can actually request, some of them, they need very exact, perfect photometric nights with good seeing. And others are like, I don't actually care. If my object's bright, I don't care what I get, but any data is good. So they have different ranges of requirements. And so the Q coordinator makes the cues. And the remote observers, we have several remote observers and they take the data for us and they work in Waimea at the headquarters. And so they take the observations and if the exposures meet certain requirements, they are validated and removed from the database. So basically, if your object is in the queue to be observed, but it's not perfect or it's not good enough, we will try to re-observe it again. So this is good. This means you're not losing data because of weather. We will try to re-observe it, provided there's still more good time in the run for observing that. So I like this way of observing things compared to classical. I think it's more efficient. I think this means when observers or when PIs have like objects they want to monitor every single day, that's easy to do in a queue system like this. So here I have a picture of the remote observing room with one of the remote observers. So this is Callie, and you have all the screens up for her to control the telescope and insert items into the queue and take exposures. This is what they do every night. And actually, I also like this aspect of queue observing is I don't like having to stay up all night and being jet lagged from trying to be awake while trying to take observations. So yeah, as you guys can tell, I'm a fan of this. But yeah, this is one of the remote observers. And the image in the background there is actually from MegaCam, a color image of, I don't quite remember which nebula, but that's a MegaCam image in the background there. So I'll talk a little bit about different science that's come out of MegaCam. It's been on the sky for 18 years, so it's done a lot of things. Coming from a moving object background, I know quite a lot of what MegaCam does for that. So the one on the left, this is Oumuamua. It was discovered by Pan-STARRS, and MegaCam got follow-up images. And this is really critical and important because oftentimes things like Pan-STARRS or Catalina or Atlas, when they discover a new moving object, the orbit is not very well constrained at all yet. You need more observations from other telescopes on later dates to pin down the orbit. And oftentimes the asteroids are moving away from us, so they get fainter. And that was the case with Oumuamua. So having a resource like MegaCam to go chase after Oumuamua, that's really critical. And up on the upper right, this is just a more typical recovery of an asteroid that was discovered and then a couple days later, or even that same day, was observed by MegaCam, and it constrains the orbit. So this was one that was very exciting, very interesting, because it was it looked like it was going to be very, very close approach. And so the observations from MegaCam helped pin down the orbit so we can tell whether or not these asteroids are a threat or not. And then the other cool thing that we do with moving objects is something like asteroid Gault. So asteroid Gault was a completely boring main belt asteroid. And it normally looked like a little dot, like the asteroid up above. And then suddenly it grew a tail. And the Atlas survey picked this up. And Atlas, being a much smaller telescope, they could tell it had a tail, but the tail was like 10, 20 pixels long. It wasn't that impressive. So they got more observations from MegaCam, and you could actually see it had two tails, the little sharp one plus a long faint one. And this is very interesting because it's a very boring asteroid which suddenly became active. So that was very unusual. So this is some of the science MegaCam does with moving objects. And some other science that's happened very recently, like in the past year with MegaCam. The one on the left, it's just they've taken a lot of data covering a large area of sky, and they could find a new M92 stellar stream discovered in this data. And on the right, you have Andromeda. So they basically have taken a lot of data tiled around Andromeda, and they could find out that Andromeda had it likes to eat other galaxies that are nearby. So that was pretty cool. And it's, 226 hours of MegaCam data. It's quite a lot of exposures. And as you can see, that's a large area of sky tiled out. So this is just a couple of examples. There's a whole lot of things you can do with MegaCam data, especially if you start digging into the archives. So how to get access to MegaCam? Well, if you are part of the CFHT part of the Canada, France, Hawaii telescope, you can apply for telescope time, or you can collaborate with someone who does. And we also have some discretionary time. So if you're not with them, but you have something super exciting and exotic, go ahead and try to contact us. We might be able to observe it. But also I want to highlight there is a lot of data in the CADC. So anything that is older than a year old is put in this archive. So that's, I guess, 17 years of data. And it's mostly U, G, R, I, and Z. And if you can go to their website, you can Google CADC MegaCam to find it. I'll show you what the coverage looks like. So this is everywhere MegaCam has pointed since 2003. And it's like 250,000 exposures. So, if you're trying to find what some area of sky looked like, you might as well check and see if it's in MegaCam. It might be there and it might be useful. And yeah, we've covered a lot of the sky, not the whole sky, but quite a lot. And each pointing is a 1 degree by 1 degree pointing. So it's a quite substantial set of data here. So I have here my last slide. I have more information about the Canada, France, Hawaii telescope, the web address there, and then information specifically about this instrument below that, as well as a link to the archive. For this conference, if you have questions, feel free to ask us in Slack, and I have the Slack address here. And otherwise, if you have other questions, you can email me at heather@cfht.hawaii.edu, and I'm more than happy to help and answer your questions. So I'm going to stop sharing.